Hi everyone and welcome back. Okay, so today I've got another graphite drawing for you. It's a Belgian canal scene. I've done a Belgian canal scene several years ago on YouTube, and I thought it was time to do another one. This one's at Bruges. It's a really nice scene, a little bit complicated to draw though. The perspective is a little bit tricky in this one, so the line drawing took quite a while. But once that was down on paper and I got the perspective, well, I won't say right, but near enough right, I started the shading. I used a set square a lot in this one to try and keep everything nice and straight, and working with the grid lines there as well, that was really helpful to gauge the perspective. Now I'm using my usual Daily Rowney smooth heavyweight paper for this one, but I made a bit of a mistake actually. I'm actually using the wrong side of it. Something happened when I was drawing the grid lines or trimming the bottom of the paper or something. I must have flipped the paper over without realising it, and as soon as I started shading I realised that I was actually working on a different surface to what I was used to. The sky went okay and the buildings went okay. It was when I started to shade in the water and get the detail in there that it was causing me a lot of problems. It was quite grainy and very different to working on the other side of the paper. So if you do use the Daily Rowney smooth heavyweight, try and use the front of it, not the back of it, because it does give different results. Although it does look very similar, just to look at with the naked eye, you wouldn't think that there'd be much in it, but believe me, there really is a lot in it. In fact, I nearly had a meltdown on camera on Patreon as I was making this video lesson. When I realised, I got all the buildings in and everything, and suddenly realised, when I was doing the fine shading for the water, that something was really, really wrong. And I nearly did start again actually, but I stuck with it and carried on, on this paper. I mean, it wasn't so noticeable when I was doing the roofs and the brickwork and everything, because it's quite textured anyway, so I didn't really notice too much difference there. But when I wanted a very smooth lay down of graphite, you could really tell the difference, that I was working on the wrong side of the paper there. But hey, first world problems, eh? I'm sure I'll get over it. Anyway, back to the drawing. So, creating textures then. Well, it's one of the key things in drawing, with graphite, to create nice textures. It's fairly easy to get smoothish laydowns of graphite, once you've learnt to shade evenly and everything. But creating textures can always cause a bit of a problem. And there's quite a few different textures in this drawing. As you can see, we've got the roof tiles, we've got the brickwork, we've got the trees, we've got the sky, we've got the water. So there's lots of different textures, that build up this picture. Lots of different elements in this landscape. And the key behind it all, to creating good textures really, is layering. Starting off with a basic underdrawing, which I often refer to as the ugly stage, and building on top of that, with various different pencil strokes. So you can get a much more realistic look taking that approach, instead of trying to get everything done in one go, in one hit with the pencil, as it were. Taking the approach of building up several layers, light layers at a time, using various techniques such as, laying down graphite, blending and erasing in any order. They're the three key steps to creating any textures in drawing. I mean, it's all we've got, isn't it? Those three stages. I always talk about this on Patreon. All we've got, really, when it comes to graphite drawing, is those three stages: laying down graphite, blending and erasing, in any order, in any technique, in any style that you like. And that's really, really important, to master those three techniques, because that's all there is, basically, to graphite drawing. There are other things like embossing and, that kind of thing. But generally, the three fundamental techniques for drawing are just laying down graphite, blending and erasing. Even the technique of burnishing could be considered either laying down graphite or blending, because it kind of does both of those jobs in one go. So again, it still falls back to the three fundamental methods. So how do you actually go about creating textures then with those three methods? Well, to start off lightly is always best, and not to use too much pressure on the pencil to start with. The last thing you want to do is emboss the paper and then go over it with a light shading or even a dark shading, because the pencil marks that you've embossed into the paper are going to show through. And it might be what you want, it might not be what you want, but generally you're going to have more control if you start with very light pressure on the paper, not care too much what it looks like, and always being mindful of the fact that you're going to be working on top of that anyway, so it's not that important in the early stages to get everything looking perfect. I think a lot of beginners want that to happen. They want everything they do, every pencil stroke they do, to be perfect. And in real terms, it doesn't really work like that. In some cases it does. I'm not saying that every pencil stroke you lay down should be an ugly one. No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm trying to say is that in the early stages, a lot of things are going to get covered up in the later stages. So those first few pencil marks that you make, as part of your layering process, sometimes the scruffier they are, the better the area can look, particularly with natural things like trees, foliage, grass, things like that. Anything that has a very random texture. You don't want to get too sort of regimented with your pencil strokes and things like that. You want to be a little bit loose in the early stages and then start to tighten up and get more detail towards the end, regardless of what the technique is, whether it's foliage, whether it's brickwork or whatever. I always work with that mindset of starting off loose and fairly ugly and then tidying everything up as I go along. And the final stage could just be something very simple, like a light brush over with a very soft brush, just to tone everything down a little bit, and just to make everything just look a little bit neater, a little bit tidier and more natural. Another good tip for creating textures as well is to use your sketchbook and draw some thumbnails out in there and just fill each one of them in with various textures. It can be brickwork, foliage, whatever, water, and just try several different styles of texture for each element, and keep that sketchbook as a reference, and you can always refer back to it then, if ever you've got a drawing like this to do where there's lots of textures and you're not sure how to do brickwork or something. Those thumbnails will really serve you well as a reference guide. And of course practice is very important, but that's what the thumbnails are all about. If you keep practicing them repetitively, you'll soon see a big improvement in the realism that you're able to create with them. Or alternatively, you could join my Patreon for just $4 a month, and you'll see how it's all done over there. Oh, come on, that was a brilliant segue into plugging Patreon. What's wrong? What's wrong with that? No, seriously though, there's lots of information over on Patreon, and this, I think there's 13 lessons to accompany this drawing on Patreon as well, and there's hundreds of videos over there discussing all sorts of techniques and textures and pencil strokes and everything. So if you're really looking to learn drawing, and you want to mix with like-minded people as well, because we've got a fantastic community over there, very supportive, all chatting away on the community section. They're all kind of helping each other along, and of course I'm there to give help and advice as best as I can as well. And like I say, it's only $4 a month and you'll get access to everything for that, hundreds and hundreds of videos for you to enjoy and learn from. I'll leave links to Patreon in the description below, and as usual on the end screen cards as well. Okay, so that's it. I won't plug Patreon anymore. But hey, wasn't that a fantastic segue into it? No, I didn't think so either. Anyway, I'll leave you to watch the rest of the drawing in peace now, because it's just about finished, and I'll see you in the next one. So thanks very much for watching, and take care everybody. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.